LSU five-star commit Dakorien Moore decommits from the Tigers. Is he bound to go to Texas? Brian Smith, our Locked On Recruiting Insider here, joining me on the show, brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. Brian, is this all Texas, or are other schools going to have a chance at a guy who is just ridiculously talented?
I think it's the latter. He's looked at Ohio State. He's looked at Oregon, obviously committed at one point to LSU. The in-state schools are not going anywhere. Texas is trending, if you will, as I use air quotes for those of you not on YouTube. But it doesn't matter because he's so good. He's going to get recruited from now through signing day. There might be a program that ends up getting a visit, like a Georgia or Bama or whoever, that may not be expected by somebody right now. If he visited Florida State or Miami or something, would it be shocking? No. So he's just a really good player. And if he decommitted, he's looking a little broader. So there's nothing wrong with the LSU pick. They've got a five-star quarterback committed. But I would hold your horses on thinking that it's just going to be Texas.
Why do you think he decommitted from LSU? Any insight or just your best guess?
I don't know. I never heard anything specific from the LSU people because they did everything right. They bring Bryce Underwood down when he came for trips. He's been multiple times. I think it's just that he's gotten recruited by so many other schools. He gains more by just wandering around and going to visits. He can because he's a five-star. Kids that aren't five stars can't get away with this with LSU. It's just true. The old saying is your leash is longer when you got more talent. Decoran Moore is that guy. So might be the best player in the country at wide receiver this year. So he's going to get a little more time to do what he wants to do.
Everything looked immediately after the decommitment like it was Texas. There were crystal balls. There was buzz. It was Texas Tech. He's, of course, a Texas kid. Is Texas seen as the leader in your view right now?
That's what everybody says. I haven't spoken to Decoran, but that's the easy low-hanging fruit. I learned this a long time ago. When a kid decommits and there's a prominent in-state program, they're usually, he's just going to go to the local school. It's the low-hanging fruit. Again, this is a kid that's going to take visits. OVs, I bet he takes at least 3 this summer, if not more, and he probably has an opportunity to take some in the fall. He's a five-star. He can because he said so. I don't care what he says right now. I care what happens. And speculation sells a lot of clicks and gets a lot of advertisers happy too. So Texas is an easy sell in that regard. They got a massive fan base, and they do have a great passing game. I mean, I get it, but he's going to take a lot of other visits. I don't even care if he commits to Texas. It doesn't mean much to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think Texas is certainly a spot that has to be appealing with what Steve Sarkisian does in the passing game. You have Arch Manning in line to be the next quarterback, and he looked fantastic in Texas's spring game and appears poised to take the reins from Quinn Ewers next year when Quinn goes off to the NFL. But it's still relatively early in the recruiting process, Brian. We're talking about a 2025 kid who probably ends up signing his national letter of intent in December in the early signing window. That's when the bulk, though not all, that's when the bulk of recruiting classes are finalized, is on that day. But still, December is a long ways away. Do you think there's any chance that LSU can get him back into the fold?
100%. LSU's not a hard sell, especially for a Dallas kid. They've gotten kids out of there forever. And again, they have Bryce Underwood committed. By most people's accounts, he's the most physically gifted kid in the entire 25 class, regardless of position. And it just happens that Moore's a receiver, so that's not hard. They need to get him back on campus, though. Sooner than later, obviously, they need to get him to a game in Death Valley this fall. But I just don't see what the hard sell is. They throw it around. They've got quarterbacks, etc. He probably just wants to look around. I don't look at this as big a deal for LSU as some might. But at the same time, he's a five-star, so he can go wherever he wants.
Yeah, and I mean, he's a supremely talented guy. This is not some accidental 5-star rating or, he can grow into that. Like, he seems to me, a different sort of style, but the Ryan Williams, Cam Coleman element where you step in and even in the SEC, you play right away. And that's, why we're talking about him for an entire segment here on the show. This is a big time player in the class of 2025. You and I recently talked about Juju Lewis as well, 5-star quarterback who's verbally committed to USC. He has not decommitted, but everybody else is trying to get him to flip. It is that sort of season, and Decorin is a guy that's going to attract that sort of attention because he's a big time player. Now, according to Ducks Wire at USA Today, he's got a visit scheduled for this summer, one to Ohio State and one to Oregon. I believe Ohio State is first and then Oregon is second, kind of towards the end of June. What do you make of those schools reportedly having those visits and nobody else being in the mix to get one of those, at least at this time?
I don't look at it anything other than he's just checking them out. Again, he'll take trips in the fall too. If I'm Texas, I'd rather have the November visit because it's closer to signing day. That's how I would look at it. Again, I could care no less whether he's committed to a school or not. I know coaches look at it differently. I just look at end result, and that's it. He's going to take visits this fall, too. So should you use your OB in the summer or the fall? If you take it this summer, you need to knock him out. There can't be any doubt. So Ohio State and Oregon are taking let's just figure it out right now. Where do we stand? Not that he couldn't take an unofficial as well, but an official visit right before signing day is oftentimes the death knell for other schools. So I'll be curious to see who does that. So I don't worry about the summer visit as much if I'm one of the other schools.
If you're trying to get him on campus for a visit during the fall to showcase a particular game, are you showing him a game you feel like you're going to win, or do you showcase a game that is going to have big stakes and have a big feel? The crowd has that extra juice, but you have the potential to lose. You're a head coach deciding which of those two games you want to take a kid like this on a visit for. Which one are you going after?
If it's going to be a smaller list of kids, there's a lot of things with this. I'll take the big game. The atmosphere, like at Outson, Ohio State, Clemson, whatever the school is, those game days are just incredible. If a kid's not interested in that, he's probably not the right guy for you. That's kind of how I look at it. And you're going to be able to see if you're Decoran Moore, where do I fit? And he fits in anywhere because he's better than most of the college kids he's going to be competing with. He's that kind of player. So I don't think that matters. You're going to be able to showcase him by saying you're the extra piece that gets us over the top to get us a ring. That's what every school is going to be telling him. And it's actually very possible. He's that kind of player. So I would bring him into the big game.
What makes him so special?
Speed and just the ability to make guys look dumb in one-on-one situations. You have to see him live to understand, but he'll high point the football like a 6'5" guy, and he's maybe 6 foot. He just has.
He's listed 5'11".
Yeah, so and he just runs by everybody. He's running by guys in Dallas like they're standing still. Dallas football is really good. So, elite player. He did it on the national stage at the Future 50 last summer. He's a kid we've known about for a few years. He's at a dominant high school program. There's nothing not to like about Decorian Moore.
Yeah, Duncanville High School, right out there in Texas. That's one of the big time programs in that state, and Dakorien certainly just the latest in a long line of players to come out of that high school. Brian Smith, our Locked On Recruiting Insider, brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Brian, thank you as always.
Absolutely, sir.
Elijah Badger made his pick. He's a Florida Gator, and I think it's a huge, huge pickup. But does it alter their season outlook? That's coming up next.